Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and we all can.
The road's not flooded like we know it is now. It's like in a swale. It's just holding up their pavement when they're walking the road right now. So that's not my problem. Right. Start somewhere else. No, we just pulled off on the side. It's their truck or a typically they got these like big hopper trucks out there, like a semi truck.
Earlier, you like earlier? Yeah, sure.
I like earlier too. 1 o'clock? Sure.
1 o'clock? 1 o'clock? Yeah, 1 o'clock on the 10th. 1 o'clock it is. Yes, sir. Bob's going to be here. Bob's going to.
Nancy, they're just talking about future meetings, if you can hear.
Well, what? Oh, you're going to be gone until when?
August 1st. I'll be on.
So if we post, here we go on 1, so we can't really work around your schedule, right?
I'll be on from the 9th to the 7th of August.
Oh, so we're just missing.
I got one council meeting on the 27th. If you have anything,
Would you want it about this Monday the 7th?
but I can do the 10th.
Just the 7th, right?
I'll be here on the 7th.
You're going back when in August?
The 7th or 8th, probably 8th.
You want to do 7th? So Bob's here, just have him Zoom.
Oh, what day is that?
That's Monday.
Monday, July 7th. I'm here then. Yeah, sure. You can do that. You want to do that?
Well, 8th, we got city council meeting.
Huh?
8th, we got city council meeting, planning and zoning this morning.
Okay. I'll be on the road.
You'll be on the road on the 7th?
Oh, I thought you weren't leaving.
I'm going to be leaving, well, I'm going to be leaving South Carolina.
Thursday, that's too early.
I think I work, it's right for the holiday weekend, that's Thursday, Friday. Are you sticking with the 10th?
There's a CAC meeting at 6 on Thursday.
Trying to persuade them.
10th, okay.
I'm on the 10th right now, if y'all change them now.
10th is good with me.
10th at 1 o'clock? 10th at 1 o'clock, yes, sir.
We do that, we is it?
I think we schedule 2 because there might be some changes in direction. Come back for a second. We'll schedule that.
Ready?
I'll let
10 a.m. or 1
Call the North City Port Richey City Council special meeting Monday, June 16th, 2025. Stand for pledge.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, have roll, please. Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chris Mayer.
Here.
Councilman David Mueller.
Here.
Councilman Robert Hubbard.
Here.
Councilwoman Lisa Burke.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
City Manager Andrew Butterfield.
Here.
Thank you. Okay. First up, comments from the general public. We have no one seated out in the public. No one online, I suppose. Okay, so I'll bring it back to comments from city manager. Pass it to Mr. Butterfield for his comments.
Mayor and council, I appreciate coming in on short notice for this special meeting. We just saw an opportunity to avoid paying another setup fee to our paving contractor, get some more paving done and get it done faster than if we had waited till next week. So I thank everybody for coming in. I hope the information we've sent ahead of time is helpful to understanding. It's requesting a motion to approve $33,030 of further payments to Ajax Paving. That's just above my threshold to approve, so I had to ask you all to come in. The total that this addition would take us over the $450,000 that's been already approved by $7,041. Then that we have in the Public Works operational budget, so we could cover that and get the project done. Subject to any questions, that's my recommendation.
Okay. Well, actually, this kind of went to this. Go ahead and jump into the council business, which is approval of paving Wilkins Street and Bay Boulevard Bridge. Andy's already introduced that, so if you guys have any questions.
So moved.
Okay, we've got a motion second to approve. Any further discussion? The only discussion I was going to ask, which I asked before the meeting, we had Grand Boulevard improvements. Did you find anything out on that, if that's in the budget?
I have to confer with the finance director and see what we actually have set aside for the construction part of that. We do have money set aside for the final permit and final set of plans, but I don't know if we've set aside money for construction.
Okay, because I know
I'm waiting for that number.
Yeah, because
we haven't received that number yet.
Yeah, because I thought that was, we were looking at using potential ARPA funding for that, but we put all that ARPA funding into this.
Is that the intersection on 19?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we don't have an issue with that.
Hasn't been approved yet, has it?
Blanket,
No, but it's going to bid, so it's obviously it's going to come back. We have to authorize that.
the blanket that we set aside for paving in late December for Ajax was $450 regardless. That letter was done, and that was the monies that we set aside for paving.
Right.
So we're not exceeding that anyway in ARPA. So if there is money set aside for the
Well, ARPA's done because
that's
we
what I'm
had.
saying. But if we did set aside something for the construction part of the project, that's not being touched by this.
Right, I know, but I'm just curious if we have that set aside in another fund or something budgeted, because otherwise we have to come up with that.
About that
Okay.
and get his input, but we can have a follow up with the next council meeting on that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I put to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Next up, comments from the mayor and city council. I'll start to my left with Councilwoman Burke. Vice Mayor,
Nothing.
Councilman Hubbard,
Not at this time.
Councilman Mueller.
Sure. Having been to a couple meetings with nicer chairs, I noticed a comment that Chris made. It says, wouldn't it be nice if we have nice chairs out here? And I'm thinking, having sitting in a church yesterday with nice foam padded chairs, I think maybe that's why we don't have anybody out here. So maybe we ought to look at getting chairs.
He sent me a link today.
He what?
Vice Mayor sent me a link to
Yeah.
look at those chairs.
Right. But since
I
we
tried to
couldn't
open it
discuss
and
it
it wouldn't
amongst
let me.
ourselves, I just wanted to bring that up in open council so that we can have a discussion on that. He made the comment and I filed it away and said, hey, that's probably not a bad idea. And thank you for reflecting that. Sounds like
We're going to get some price proposals for a new set of
Perfect.
chairs.
Yeah,
And
so
this was an item he actually brought up to.
I found $25 chairs, really
Yeah.
nice, fat, cushiony church chairs, excellent condition. They've got 200 of them for $25 a piece. So
That's
we
a
could
deal.
it's a real deal.
yeah, you only need two since only Danny and
Facebook and look at
somebody
church
else shows
chairs
up out
right
there.
Okay, well,
We ought to have a
I gotta
couple
talk to him
lounge
because-
chairs for them.
you didn't allow me to go to
Parker
the
lounge.
marketplace part of
Yeah.
Facebook because I think it's a block thing. But I'll
George will have to hack it.
yeah. But I searched it myself on my own phone, and it popped up. So,
Okay, good. So you
but
got-
we'll
there
start.
was-
Yeah, we'll start getting.
I'd
quotes
move
for
if
those.
we're going to move, because if you sit, though, somebody else will get them.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, we got budget season coming up, but obviously if you find some for 25, there's 200, you say?
200.
It's $5,000. That's within his purchase authority. Is there any objection
Make a
to?
motion to move on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion a second. Any further discussion?
As long as those chairs are decent, as long as you
That's,
get there.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I said, let
This
us
is
be-
excellent condition, so.
What are we gonna do with these?
Donate them.
Auction them.
Maybe the trailer park or something, or
We
clubhouse?
Could buy a community center and fill it right up.
That's, I mean, always use chairs for something, so.
Danny will figure it out,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, any public comment? None out there, none online? Bring back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I sent the city manager two areas that we brought up, or that I brought up at the last meeting about property located north of the city and property located along Coons Road that we could build into a killer park or smoking killer park, as Vice Mayor indicated. But maybe he could share that with you at some time. But I think it would be wise for the city to be looking forward into areas that, as we grow, we can accommodate various needs of the city.
Yeah, as I'd mentioned to Andy as well, that in soon to come workshop, we need to kind of look at several parcels to see where we might be interested in picking up some stuff. So
I agree with all that. I think our infrastructure, like water lines and stuff, we should get that settled in those areas first, so we don't have to worry about it. And if you put in sidewalks, you have to dig them up, and then you have to put water lines later. I'd rather have that all in place before we do any sidewalks or any or do anything on top of the property until the water lines are updated. And storm drains if needed. I don't, but yeah, that needs to be done. Infrastructure, start at the bottom, make sure that's all done before we. It's like Grand Boulevard. You're
so
talking
I'm
about.
confused. So you say before we acquire property?
No,
'Cause that- I mean,
it's
that's
not our property. We can't do anything with it.
right. Exactly what I'm saying. So, this is a
We can't do
request.
anything until we annex it. If you're not going to do anything unless it's annexed, though, right?
Right. Well, some of that was in the city. Actually, I think all of it's in the city. But if the city owns it, it's annexed by default, isn't it?
We're talking about city limits.
Well, no, I don't know if
If the city buys the property that's adjacent to its existing property, then it's. I think all this property that I was talking about is in the city already. So.
It's like you were talking, I wasn't at the meeting, which I got to get an internal speaker for my computer because I didn't hear you very well when someone else was talking. When you were talking, I couldn't understand it, but I'll fix that. But I know we were talking about Grand Boulevard and making that more like the main street.
Mhm.
And I brought up the fact that that's great. We're going to be putting, if that's the case, you're going to be putting in sidewalks and joining from Main Street over to the waterfront area. Waterfront, all that water lines need to be done before we do anything.
Sure.
And we got, as Matt got with you on DOT as far as putting water line across the bridge. I mean, we talked about that a few times. So that's going to take a long time to get that approved. But that's eventually going to need to be done.
Right. So again, the Grand Boulevard stuff would be a workshop just to kind of start the planning aspect of that. So which would include all those things if we were to move on that from a construction perspective, right? But you gotta look at it and plan from a zoning perspective of what you kind of want to see in that area first, and that's what this first. And obviously, if there's any property that needs acquiring along there, we can look at that as well. But then as we start to move towards any kind of execution, obviously that infrastructure would be first and foremost.
There's a lot of possibilities there.
Right.
Like the dredging, that area, we need to put all that dredging out on Durney Key and not put it on that property. We could do something really good with that corner piece of property.
Obviously, there's something in play too, is that the fire department is looking at doing this study that's ongoing about how big a fire department you need, where it would need to be, or whatever. Obviously, that property is in play for that. depending on the study results. So I'll say
It's a terrible location for a fire department.
probably, but I mean, that's, I'm just saying, that's something that's been, that we own already, that's been mentioned in the past. So again, part of the planning process is to look at Grand Boulevard and all those parcels that we own, any parcels we might want to acquire, and see what we want to do with that area. I think
Is that a workshop, Mayor?
yes, absolutely, yeah.
That's a great idea.
I think we should set up a workshop on that so we can all, I mean, there's a lot of aspects in property out there. That one that we were talking, Dave and I were talking about, that property where the blue building used to be is tore down next to the mullet.
Yes.
Between Nutty over and the mullet.
That's one of the properties we don't own that we should look at acquiring. I know that Matt had done some work before he left
That would
on.
make a nice park. There's a lot of parking there.
One time, I
boat
guess
ramp.
there were a lot of liens on it, but Nancy
boat
said
ramp.
that
The boat
some of
ramp
those
would be
liens are
tough
gone.
because of the waiting line. There's no place for people to stage their boats out there for a boat ramp. Although it could be just for city residents only. Boat ramp.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get the cart before a horse here. Let's have a
Right, a
workshop where we
workshop.
talk about the area, what the vision is, and then we can start looking at in that part of that vision and how we would execute that on different parcels or whatever. But you got to kind of
Just happened. I understand that Whiskey Joe's just bought the parking for the boat ramp. We're very limited now for parking again. People were parking by the bait shop.
The bait shop?
Yeah, they bought that property, so you can't park your boat and truck there now, or your
Whiskey Joe's bought the bait
Did
shop.
they?
Yeah, and the property.
I heard
I know
that
they bought the property right next.
next
The
to
house.
house. but I
Right, the
haven't
house.
heard
Well,
about
they bought the house and the property across the street.
I had not heard
I didn't
that.
know that.
Well, there's two properties across the street. One
There
directly
is.
across the street is their overflow lot now, but
Right.
the other one diagonal would
One
be.
belongs to Catches, the other one belonged to the gambling people, and
Right.
they're telling me they just sold that to Whiskey Joe's.
I haven't confirmed, but that's what I've been told by several people, including people that work there.
Like,
And there's a sign up there, no parking. So I assume that's correct.
But the only reason I act surprised is because I talk to the GM Marty DeFani all the time, and he's never mentioned that. So I don't.
Joe?
No, Marty.
Marty.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
You mentioned the house.
They
The
did
house.
buy
yeah, they bought the house. That's
So they're going to
confirmed.
make that like a wedding thing.
So-
But then across the street from there where they were parking, they bought that lot too. And from what I understand, they own all that property.
well, no,
There's
it's,
no parking now. Maybe
so I think they separated that. So this I know for a fact. Again, I don't want to get in a rumor discussion here. If you know something, great.
Right.
But what you hear in the street may not be
True.
true. But so unequivocally, they've divided that one house parcel, and it has sold to Whiskey Joe's. But it's
Right.
but it wasn't a package deal. So if they were looking at acquiring that other one as well, I've not heard that.
so where the bait shop where people were parking trucks and trailers, there's a no parking sign there, so you can't.
Yeah,
Billy still may own it.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not. But now you're limited to just parking and Nick's parking.
I will say, just recently, I saw a bunch of trailers parked in there over Memorial Day weekend. So I don't know when they put
Yeah,
that.
that was it's
So recently changed.
Just recently, yes, like
Well,
last
maybe-
week.
That's going to be a severe problem.
Maybe that was just. It might have just been last week too. Like people talk. I talked to a few people over there, and they said that they acquired the property. They're not leasing that no more. They bought it.
Okay. Well, I
But
know
could
it's.
be maybe they put a bid on it. Maybe they didn't buy
Yeah,
it.
I know it's
don't
been for sale for a long time, so it very well could. I mean, sometimes deals go fast like
I
that.
know that Mark and Billy are wanting to get out of there. They
Yeah.
want they're selling. They want to sell everything.
The property that Councilman Mueller mentioned north of the city, talked to Daryl and Sal, and I believe the RO water treatment facility, that might be a useful piece of land for that. So we're looking at that, and there's $500,000 in the CRA for land purchase, and then $150,000 in general funds for land purchase. So that's in this FY. And we could combine that with future FY monies to purchase some of these properties. So we're looking at it. We have a workshop this afternoon. We had a staff meeting on, it started off as being about the Coons Road or Drive project, the idea of a park there. But we'll talk about other things. As far as the Grand Boulevard workshop, what time frame? I know we're working our calendars hard. It's August.
Yeah, have you talked to
Soon enough.
Tammy with Verona?
I've spoken to her once and done a couple emails, but
Okay.
see what she could have.
Yeah, see what she's available and reach out to us to try to schedule something.
Okay.
Because she'd need to be there for that.
I just pulled up the Pasco County records, and Whiskey Joe's only shows ownership of that individual house just to the north.
Well, yeah, if there was a deal last week or something, it wouldn't
Right,
show up.
it'd still be pending.
So
I mean, they usually go to record with that stuff pretty quick.
not that quick.
Yes, that quick.
Yeah,
Not
they
in a week.
have to
Yes,
go to record
right.
before they fund.
I'm telling you, I've never seen one in a week's time be on there.
I have.
Yeah.
They can't fund
Watch
until it's
and learn.
recorded.
The recorded deed and what shows up on the website is two different things.
As
You get a recorded deed,
Whiskey
but
said.
okay, well,
I think it happens simultaneously. But anyway, no big deal. How about if we just
Yeah.
investigate
Anyway,
yeah, we're getting cart full of horse for sure.
but anyway, things are changing down there, and
Yep.
there's supposed to be a meeting with the developer soon, or what's the
This week,
this week?
it's Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 18th. Yeah. It's a Zoom
Another
meeting.
To see where they're at with their parcels and whether they're acquiring any more. Or
No, just to talk about the update on their project.
What time is that?
It's
Let's see, 11:30.
so it's not a council meeting. It's not a public meeting.
Okay, meeting with them.
Yeah, and we can't more than one of us can't be on because of sunshine
So
law.
you're going to be there?
Yeah. It's just an update, kind of bring Andy up to speed, bring the rest of the city up to speed where they're at in their process.
and Twitter's is back open, I hear, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Can't wait to go.
Yeah, I don't. They're going to be talking about property they don't own. They're wasting your time.
Hmm?
If the developers going to be talking about property that they don't own, they're going to be wasting
They're
your
talking
time.
about property they own 8.5 acres on Gildogs.
Right, okay.
So I don't know what I mean. Other than them being in talks with everybody else with property, I don't know where they're at with that. But they own 8.5 acres that they're
Right.
actively looking at developing.
You'll get an update for us, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
That'll be
Meeting
it.
at 10:30 on Wednesday. Zoom meeting. I think
Yeah.
you're on it.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome.
Okay. And so actually at the council meeting Tuesday, I can bring back anything we find out.
Anything else from the Florida legislature? Any updates here?
Well, I'll go ahead and since you asked, you may have seen it. So we had we went with the request back before everything started for $10 million in different things. What came out of the original set of the budget was $4.3 million was in there. We had $400,000 on the House side, and we had for the fire truck we had $800,000 on the Senate side for the fire truck. We had $2.5 million for replacing the water pipes on the Senate side, as well as $1 million for rehabilitation of the lift stations on the Senate side. Those budgets, when they came in, they were about $4 billion apart. Obviously, Mike has been working that. Bob, myself, and you went up there with Mike and met with Hooper and Yeager and others. And so that process has got elongated, obviously. They have decided last week on a budget, so they've reduced that down, and they've done their horse trading. And so the total 800, 2.1, and 1 for a total of 4.3 million was approved in that budget. That now gets packaged up and goes to the governor. If the governor signs that, the city will be getting $4.3 million in appropriation.
Wonderful. That's great.
So obviously keep that in your prayers. We've achieved the hard part. I said once it gets across governor's desk, veto that as a line item or whatever, then we get that 4.3 million to be included in our upcoming budget. So good news on that.
Fantastic news.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Money well spent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we paid $32,000 for the year for Mike to be a lobbyist, and we bring back $4.3 million of that. It's a huge.
Can we do that again next year?
Well, the goal is to continue to obviously keep Mike on staff. We may need to look at adjusting his contract, obviously, but because the year-to-year contract. But yeah,
We didn't sign him up for long term for that.
I think year-to-year.
No.
We want, because at the beginning when we hired him, there was no guarantee we get anything.
That's one of my big concerns is the water supply lines are deteriorating in the city, especially on Limestone Sunset. That's 60, 70 million dollars, I believe, over 10 years, right, Daryl? Water supply lines approximately throughout the city
So,
limits.
however much it costs to plant
it's about 4 times
Right.
to redo the whole system. Rule of thumb.
Do you know what went in that $2.5 million thing he submitted? Because that was for replacing water supply lines
For
The budget.
for the city.
yeah, it's just where we're having a bunch of breaks and stuff that I just replaced some of the old galvanized and asbestos lines.
So is it? I don't remember it being an isolated area. I just thought it was in general.
Just, yeah, it was throughout the city. Just because we have some asbestos lines on Green Street.
Mhm.
We got some on Old Ridge right here. We got some on Bay Boulevard. Got some on some galvanized lines on
So
the
he's
south
not
side.
have to present.
Kind of get those, get them replaced.
So the good news is that we didn't have any money for that.
Right.
And so if the
I
governor
know.
signs this, we will have $2.5 million to start replacing it.
We have
Obviously,
a long
we're
ways to
replacing all
go.
at once.
Is the
Something's
thing.
better than none.
And
You
it's
just
a-
got to pick a side and
Yep.
go instead of jumping around.
right.
There
So-
was,
And the cost of it, a lot of it can be directional drilled, so a lot of it won't be open. You can directional drill a lot of it, so I'm gonna worry about tearing driveways and everything else. So
there was
driveways, roads.
There was a study that was being done about the asbestos lines. Did that ever get completed and the results ever
So
be
it wasn't
displayed?
asbestos, it was lead and copper.
Lead and copper, that's what
Lead
it
and
was.
copper. So we submitted the report.
Right.
We were allowed to have a certain number of unknowns,
Right.
which we submitted those, and DP hasn't said nothing back to us yet. So right now, we're good.
Well, the benefit of that report is it'll help us to assess how much of this
Correct.
problem we have, and then there's potentially grants available to correct that issue.
Yeah, it's not more or less the main lines; it's
Right.
the service lines with the lead and copper. So we pull samples throughout the city every year through lead and copper, and we've only had one house. It's the one right there at Chapel and right before you get to Washington. To that old house, it's from like almost 1800s or whatever. That's the only one where we exceeded our limit.
Okay.
But we pull it throughout our system, and majority of the lead and copper stuff is all internal because we make the people. I don't know if you guys are on that list at all. It's random throughout the city. So what you got to do is your first grab in the morning. As soon as you turn the water on, first thing you fill the bottle up, close it, set it outside. We come get it, we send it off. So it's all done internally in the people's house. It's not outside at our actual service line. So we determine which ones have copper. Most of our lines have been replaced. It's all customer base related. So if we exceed that, it's up to the state to determine who's responsible from replacing from the meter box to the house.
Yeah, that would be a good basis for, one of your monthly reports that, where you come in and present your data, what's going on in your department, department presentation.
Could we use CRA money to help homeowners do that? They're responsible, basically.
For water connection stuff?
From
I
the
don't
meter to the house.
I don't
they
believe.
are.
I don't believe CRA money could help with that.
Meter to the house is on the homeowner, right?
It is, right.
You're
Correct.
And that's where the
But
problem.
it's also included. So if it's on, since they draw it from their stuff, even though it's not coming from our distribution system, it still exceeds our
Threshold,
our threshold, no matter what.
So at that point there, we step in and replace the lines to their
It's
house.
whatever the state comes back with, what they want to do with it. Because there's a certain amount. If you exceed a certain percentage, then you have to replace it. Right now, we don't exceed that.
So we would be going into people's houses replacing lines.
No, from the street to the
From the
house.
meter box to the house. That's why when you dig it up, they want a foot dug before the meter box and a foot dug after the meter box, which I don't get why we have to go on the customer side, because if they have a break on their side, we're not going to go out and fix it because it's private property.
Right.
But that's what this part of the state guidelines was for the EPA.
Probably because that portion connects into our service, right? Our meter.
Yeah.
Which probably.
So how do you sample on the other side of the meter?
It's the graph sample what the state DP and the EPA wants us to do. It's part of the lead and copper sampling.
But you grab
First
it
grab first morning. We drop it off at the customer's house. The customer grabs it
out of their
out of their faucet.
But that's coming through their line and our line.
Correct.
But if our lines are just say PVC up to the meter, and then they have lead pipe from the meter to their house,
Make our results go higher.
right? So you almost have to test before and after the meter to assess whether you're getting
Can't do
where
it.
the problem is.
No, I don't disagree. That's just what DEP and the EPA wants done.
Well, their information's skewed.
Everybody's
So-
good.
Sounds like it.
Everybody's good as.
So
Makes
maybe
no
we
sense to me.
can get that committee to address that.
You try. It's done all over the United States.
know.
Yeah, it's a lot for small cities. You know, you got to identify. We got 3,500 connections.
All right.
So there's no way we were going to get 35 connections verified within a year without hiring a firm in here, which was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we did what we were allowed for unknowns
Right.
to be done. So, and there's a certain percentage. If we did, I'll throw Westport out there for example. There's probably 500 connections in Westport. We only had to do 2% of Westport to meet the requirement. So.
Mine's PVC from the meter to the house, and I've got filters all through the house, but what's under my slab is nasty, and that's something that's,
And we,
that's the difficult
So
part
a lot-
that
so
no one's going
what-
to do.
it is we only send out it's like 0.01% of iron actually goes out to the city. So when people have these filters, they're supposed to take it out. The filters are supposed to take it out to people that put the ROs or whatever little systems they have at their house. It's supposed to take out. So if your filters are red and your filters are, it's the filters and everything are doing their job of what they're supposed to do. But a lot of these homes, like Bob just said, they're galvanized, they're lead, they're copper, they're whatever. And when a jolt of air comes through, that shakes them galvanized lines through and it lets the rust come through. You know,
Mhm.
we test for all that. So if our water was bad, it would come back in our samples. And all of our samples come out good. So
And you get saltwater flooding too.
yeah, it's a lot of red water complaints are from galvanized lines.
Well, one thing, so in anticipation of that $2.5 million for the water pipes and $1 million for the lift stations, if you all could be looking to get that, because as soon as that money comes in, I want to deploy that capital. And the reason for that is I want the legislature to see that, hey, as soon as you're giving it to us, we're putting it back in the community. So as we ask for continued funding, they see that we're being good stewards of that. I don't want to be sitting on it. So
That helps let down the road.
yes,
So we got 500,000 set for Old Post main to be replaced, I believe, right? Set
I'm not
aside.
sure.
Yeah, $500,000 we have set aside for the main, the 10-inch main on Old Post to be replaced all the way down to Treadway and
That was something Matt was
Bridge.
discussing. I don't know if he put that in.
budgeted this year.
Can you confirm that?
I don't know if Matt put
I
that
don't know.
in yet.
It's on. I saw it on the budget.
The only thing on Old Post Road that I put on this year, because Matt was doing something with the water, was redoing the hike and bike. Redoing that.
How about the asphalt? What about the lift station fencing in front of the park, waterfront park?
To get it replaced? Yeah, we're going to work on that. I don't know why.
Is it gonna be white?
You see the ones we're putting around the city.
Yeah, they
There's
look,
one
they
on
look
about
awesome. They
green,
actually look
so-
nice versus like, yeah.
But that's what we've been doing. We've been doing white fencing.
Nice job.
To get it done. Like, but that may be
Looking-
what you saw, Bob, with Old Post Road. I don't know. I don't know if Matt put something with it, because I know we had discussed that water line,
Right.
redoing it for when the proposed development came.
To do it before they
Upside
developed it,
to,
right?
to that corner.
And we talked about you were going to do some drilling. We were going to run it down to like the bridge and Treadway, and then we were going to
Just put a hydrant on the end of it.
put a hydrant until we could get that main going across the river, across the bridge.
Yeah.
And I'll get that approved with DOT is going to take a while. I'd like to get started on seeing what they can do to prove that, but we're going to need to do it.
So that water main, is it gonna go underneath the pack, the walking height thing
Or
for that baby or Old Post?
so we don't have a big right of way right there, and that hike and bike. Well, the hike and bike just goes to Waterfront Park. So where we're tying it in at is going to be after that. It's
On the other side of
on
Bay
the other side
Boulevard?
of Waterfront. It's like right where the property line between where Guild Dogs had and Waterfront Park. That's where the 10-inch would start at and pick up and go down. So we wouldn't touch the hike and bike to put that water line.
So it wouldn't come this way, it would,
Yeah, it's going to go towards Pasco Way.
okay.
North.
Almost from the intersection of Grand and Old Post to Pasco Way. Couple, what was it, like 500 feet or something like that it was.
Is that something wise to do with the developer coming in there and
That's why I think we put a hold on it. That's why.
instead of dropping 500 grand on something that's getting ready to be all changed
Well,
up?
and two, that obviously whatever they're going to do there is going to be impact fees that are going to help fund some of that infrastructure development there. So
And if they wanted, you kind of put it on the developer to upgrade your system for you because they're the ones going to
that
have
would
to do
require a lot more
studies.
water down there than
Yeah.
So that's obviously impact fees cover some of that. So I think even if it's not in the budget, did you find anything?
I don't see it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it either.
You didn't see it in there?
Unless it's in our 5-year plan and maybe.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah,
I believe it
Fee.
was.
There's no $500,000 budget for that.
but obviously there's things we need to be looking at as we.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to do, when they come in and do that, they're going to have to do capacity analysis on the
Right.
stations anyway to see if they can even hold what we have. You know,
Right.
Same with the water mains. Hooters needed the fire line in, so they are extending 6 inch all the way down to suffice where they need.
And Wade, there was a question earlier about the Grand Boulevard improvements. Do we have money set aside for that? Because that's something that's going to be. When's that going to go to bid? Do you know, Sal?
As soon as I get the information from the engineer. So we haven't received that yet.
So the DOT approve the permits or whatever?
The last time that I talked to the engineer, the FDOT made some comments on revisions for the permit. The engineer made those revisions and sent it back, so we've not yet gotten
Okay.
final approval. Once we get final approval, then we can create the bid packet and get it out.
Bid process goes for
30 days.
30 days. So in the next couple months, we could potentially be hiring somebody to start that. That's what I thought we had money in the budget for that.
Does that include the speed bumps?
Is that part of the?
No,
Where is that? Where
that's
is that?
that's a Safe Streets program. They're looking into.
I know that's still dragging on.
Yeah.
And on and on and on. People ask, so do we
Yeah.
have an update on that?
Let's Sal probably give us an update. Do you have an update on the Safe Streets stuff?
I actually sent an email out today to get the final. They're supposed to be finishing the final plan.
Okay, so they should be coming back to council with that
Yep.
report soon.
Oh yeah, that'll go back to council for final approval.
So we should hear on that soon as well. Anything else while we're waiting on Adam to?
Well, how's the traffic on Washington Street? Are they keeping it under 70 or?
Sometimes.
Didn't we reduce the speed on that?
No, that was Congress, and that.
They're drag race down there. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy.
they fly down Washington.
So I did notice it just
Issue some speed bricks.
that recently, so Pasco passed that Congress change to 45 to 35, and then a month and a half, 2 months ago, they finally changed the sign, so it's 35 there.
I mean, if we have a speeding problem on Washington, why would we not?
So we've been talking about speeding issues in the city for a while now. We bought two those. We got trains too, but we bought two permanent signs for Old Post down by Seville Bay.
Flushing
Has it
Hill
helped?
Woods.
Well, so the question
Do you have
is,
any feedback?
what we like to see is some feedback from that, and then if it's positive, then I think we could probably buy a couple more for Washington.
I don't think a sign will help
No.
anything whatsoever.
We would be surprised, actually. It's
Yeah, the first time they see it.
The police presence over there once in a while, tag a few people, that would help. But
You know, the
the
empty
stop
car.
sign there at that new development, the Keys, that's a 4-way now.
You know,
Aldo,
no, that's not a four-way stop.
Aldo, no, it's not. It should be. You got
Maybe it
Aldo
needs to
runs
be,
straight
yeah.
across Washington there, so people are going right into that subdivision off Aldo. And people
I mean,
come
our
from
main
Washington.
speeding streets are Old Post, Bay, and Washington because they're the longest, the straightest.
Yeah.
Those are our three streets that are the worst.
And
How difficult would it be to put a 4-way stop sign there?
I don't see a lot of speeding on Bay Boulevard or Old Post.
So many people say differently.
I mean, I travel with every
Well,
day.
and so that's another thing about the visual readouts is,
tracks everything.
well, hear me out. So if you're out in your yard and you're within eyesight of that and you perceive a car speeding down your road, when you look up, you also see what the speed is, and you can think, oh, well, I guess he wasn't speeding. So I know that a lot of people perceive speed differently, and so if you have that visual there, that actually informs the public what the actual speed is as well. So it helps show you your behavior as you're a driver, but as a resident, you also see what you're perceiving as whether it be true or not. So that's
Well, I'll give that a lot of, you'll see it and come off the accelerator.
yeah. I mean, it's not the end all sale, but anything you can do to help bring that behavior in line as less of intrusive as possible, because nobody likes speed bumps.
Right.
I mean, that'll slow you down but nobody likes
Spill your
those.
coffee too.
Exactly. So if we can, and maybe that's the next approach. If we could have, I know we get data on those speed signs, right? If we kind of look at that data and see how that is, maybe reach out to a couple of the residents on Old Post. Betty Lou Cummins, I think, was one. If we could reach out to her. I don't know if the other couple that live there anymore, but just kind of see if those have helped. If they are, they're relatively inexpensive. I think they're good to have.
And the thing with stop signs, Bob, is some people don't like them either because you're hearing the braking and you're hearing the acceleration. So those houses that are right by it,
Oh, yeah.
that they're hearing, especially with trucks or trailers or whatever.
Well, also suggested putting, like a lot of municipalities will put a police car without a person in it. This park over there,
Yeah, they have been moving that around.
people will slow down when they see the police car.
Makes me slow down, Bob.
We need to get a
Well, you gotta
mannequin in there.
Got to pay insurance on that and all that other stuff. But I mean, I've thrown out suggestions. I think Washington Street is one of the worst.
And I when I did my ride along, we actually did some speed enforcement on Washington. I think they do it on a regular basis in the evening or whatever. But obviously, if we see spots, we can.
And knowing it's bad is more reason to make sure those sidewalks are good on Washington.
Right.
Yes, I don't have any sidewalks on Graham, but it's not as bad.
Yeah, so the
There's
sidewalks
curves
on Washington really should be taken care of so people aren't coming out into the street.
On our side, I've seen a huge increase in enforcement and presence as well.
Yeah.
So hats off to the
Mhm.
to the guys here. They're doing a great job.
That makes a big difference.
I think we definitely need to get the data back, look, and possibly put some more of those in. Because, like I said, if it's there all the time, people don't know if there's some other thing behind the scenes going on with those.
They hold data.
Yeah, that was pretty cool too. They do hold data and they tell you what
Right.
time of day they're speeding and all that stuff.
Right, but the data doesn't do any good unless it's communicated, and it's been not communicated effectively, so we need to look at that.
So when you download the data, it gives you the information, and it literally can tell you, hey, the same person speeds like 1 a.m., 30 over. So when they pull that data in, all they get to do is get out there at 1 a.m. to park, and boom, they got them just like that. So it's that dialed in. And you're right, it has to be reviewed, but it's probably not hard to pull the high-speed data out of there, the ones that are, 15 or more over.
And I don't want to say we haven't been reviewing it. We haven't seen a council. That doesn't mean
Well, Frank hasn't been here that
Right.
long.
We
I
haven't-
mean,
You haven't-
yeah, so they're looking at it.
We ought to hear about it, though. The point is if you're going to make a case for, hey, we're doing a great job, let's hear about it.
Sure.
we'll bring it up to Frank next meeting.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been here that long. I'm sure he's working on it.
Hey,
They haven't been in there a year yet, have they?
No.
The signs?
No, they haven't been in here.
6 months, maybe?
6-8 months.
And one of them was broken for a while.
Yeah, we got that fixed.
Yeah. So, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bob, you look like you was going to say.